Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
So it was cool to be like, oh, like as if I'm watching it happen with like surround sound and like, 4K or whatever. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast. You didn't need but deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. The private battle against time sometimes isn't alone. Today, we zip up our cat suits and cue up all the amazing spy theme music with Marvel's Black Widow, the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah.
Today on Nerd On.
Itsy
Bitsy Spider.
Beansy
It's
Spider.
a comic book. It's great, and we're gonna talk about it today. My name is Ollie.
And I am Tom.
I'm Caitlin.
And today my name is Corey.
And today, my name is Josh. But all the time, our episodes are brought to you in part by the Nerd On Nation, which is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks like bonus episodes, you do get discounts on merch, early access to all of our episodes, and you get access to special servers on our Discord server.
Which are always hopping.
Yeah, always hopping.
Yeah.
As
All
Josh
the
says.
day.
Yeah. So check that out, nerdon.io/Patreon. And do check out our Discord, nerdon.io/Discord, and come and chat with us and other fans. It's a fun time. It's a good time. You can chat from
Or lurk.
gardening.
We're not here to make you participate if you don't want to. You can
You
also
can
just
do
read
whatever
stuff.
you like.
Yeah.
As
Do the
long
thing.
as it's on
Be a
the dollar
wallflower like
menu.
me.
But also, as per usual, we have partnered with Apogee and Odyssey. I am wearing Odyssey headphones right now.
Oh yeah.
The quarantine happened, and we can't exactly distribute all of the headphones to everybody, but I'm wearing them, and they are fantastic.
Here they
and
are.
They come with this fantastic little bag of Glee. It's good times.
Da-da-dum.
These are
Apogee,
and if you're watching the video version, these are the Mobius surround headphones.
yeah,
Which, if you want to see what that's about,
Very fancy.
stay tuned. Check us out on YouTube.
ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But also, we are using Apogee Hype Mic. It is
number
The
one
ultimate podcasting microphone.
do check out our live show on our YouTube channel, and you can figure out that bit. But that is the housekeeping. We're doing the thing.
But this is also a comic book. And
Wow.
even though a lot of retailers can't get their comic books distributed, definitely reading digital is a great way to keep you entertained while you're staying at home. Something like Comixology, the internet's number one comic book resource and reading material.
I read mine on my phone.
Nice. Da-da-da. But no, yeah.
Shing, sparkle, sparkle.
It's actually a really great way because they're actually pretty cheap to get or pretty affordable.
Yeah.
If you're ordering it online and getting it shipped to you, sometimes they're the full retail price. But if you get digital, you get a good discount on it. And there's some cool active transitions you can definitely play with. But also cool different features in the UI that allow you to kind of immerse yourself better into the reading experience.
I like that
But
you can
do have your
select
chan-
it to go cell by cell,
Yes.
which is nice.
But also if you do have the chance to get to a local comic book store, then read it there. They definitely need our help. But Comixology is definitely a great resource, especially if you're reading stuff while you're shelter in place.
Yeah.
That's
Read
all I
it.
got.
Yeah, nerdon.io/Comixology. And
Yes,
that,
that's one.
that is the housekeeping.
That's the real.
Wow.
It's done, baby.
Let us continue with the episode.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. Boo.
Just get ready for a lot of these puns.
And also, oh man, this quarantine, we're staying at home. We're trying to keep it safe, social distancing, and we're still recording this thing. All of the process of where which segments go where is throwing me off. So this is a completed work.
It is.
This is 3 issues and another 3 issues, and it's one full trade. It's a Marvel collection. So at the end of this episode, we're gonna rate it. And that brings us to our first segment of the show, which is
Yes.
That. Rum.
Can we do
Black Widow. She kills folks.
The internet audio gave up for a second.
Yeah, basically.
It just turns to Transformer.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
pretty much.
If you are brand new to Nerd On, welcome, and we hope you're safe and enjoying the show so
Yes,
far.
we hope you're safe.
We hope you're safe, and we're armed with you.
Mhm.
this is the part of the show where we go around the screens right now and guess who's going to have the lowest score out of the rating, which is from 0 out of 5. No matter how high the number is, if you're the lowest in the group, you are the grump for the week. We encourage everyone at home to play along. And yeah.
Usually we would have the Nerd On Nation join us, but I've lost track of the days due to quarantine. So I forgot to post the poll. But if you join the Nerd On Nation, there will be polls to guess that grump. I apologize, y'all. I'm going crazy. I don't know if anyone here has seen Muppet Treasure Island. But
yes.
Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
And also at the time of this recording, this is still early phases of how long we've been doing this. So yeah, we are trying to still adjust to it all, but we're making it. We're doing it in stride. So
we're doing it raw.
With that,
we're doing it raw.
Stumbly bumbly, I am going to guess that Caitlin will be the grump for this week.
Okay.
Because she doesn't have the Black Widow beer goggles on, so.
Fair.
And she's been reading you've been reading a shit ton of comic books. Webtoons.
Oh yeah.
Webcomics, so.
Okay. Yeah, I've been reading a lot of that.
So like
okay, all right, yeah.
You're growing in culturism.
I'm growing, yeah.
The logic there. What?
I was like, huh? I'm gonna say Corey.
Oh.
Probably a mistake, but I chose him anyway.
All right.
Did you say steak?
Josh or
Yep.
Ali?
I will.
Jesus.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll
and go.
pick. I'm gonna pick Tom.
Ooh.
I got a little feeling. Little tingly in the fingly.
All right.
What little tingly in the fingly?
Josh,
What?
you got.
Don't worry about it.
That's called the Tom tingle.
Corey as well.
Oh man,
Ooh. So how many? What's that?
that's 2 for me.
2,
And then
Corey.
I guess I'll guess not Ali.
It doesn't actually star Scarlett Johansson.
Is that the only reason you like Black
No,
Widow?
I'm kidding. No.
There you go.
There's 2 strong women in
All right.
this.
Pull yourself out of that shallow pool, Ollie.
So comfortable here.
I'll guess Tom.
Oh. Very smart. The critical eye.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
So that's the order's gonna go. Ali and Josh go first, then Kaylin, and then me and Tom will go last.
the power. All right. Cool. So with that, we're going to try something a little new.
Mhm.
Not going to have any spoilers in our brief, our
Initial
reactions and our
Yeah.
first impressions, all the way
Across
up
the
until the
pond.
brief synopsis. And then after that, we go into spoiler country with our fellow comrades. So I am going to initial reaction and impressionize and say that this was my first time reading this issue. I had heard about it, and there's like several different comic books to read of like what's the essential understanding of who Black Widow is, and I took from it, like, to me, this was how I've read trade paperbacks before. They're typically compiled of different issues from different series. They're not typically one whole arc. So this was very interesting for me to be like kind of going back to form.
Mhm.
So reading this was really, really fun. I think somebody who's getting into comic books for the first time and is looking for something not too heavy, but also something just goes a little bit deeper of like what characters and how they interact. I know a lot of people are exploring the MCU for the first time, and that's how they're getting introduced to characters. But if you really want to just dive into something reading, this is probably a really good place to start.
This is great supplementary material, I think, for anybody who's a fan of the MCU.
Yeah, and
Like, who wants to kind of venture into comics.
Yeah, and like pulling the veil back, we did, schedule this out with accordance to the Black Widow film, and since with everything going on with COVID-19, everything's been pushed back and postponed. So I mean, regardless, this is still great standalone material to read, and I enjoyed.
Yeah.
You get spy feels from both sections, and you kind of get a good understanding of who the character is and what their stories are, and also like the lightheartedness that comic books usually bring. So. I enjoyed.
I enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
I can go next.
Oh,
I enjoy.
For me, yeah, I feel the same way. It's a pretty pretty good introductory to the character. I haven't read too many Black Widow comics myself, so it was a kind of a nice almost reset because I've just kind of read random, almost like one shots. But this was pretty, not typical. What's the word I'm looking for? Very traditional Black Widow spy espionage story.
Yeah.
And I really got into it. I really enjoyed the art, especially the second half.
Yeah. All the landscapes and stuff.
Yeah. And the art style itself. But yeah, I had a great time from start to finish. And I read it I think the first time in like 30 minutes.
Nice.
And then had to go back again and do it one more time. But yeah, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah. So for me, it was an interesting experience because I don't have any information or had no information up to this point about Black Widow. It was a completely new adventure for me because all I knew was MCU information. So whatever happened in those movies, that's what I knew. So for this, it was great to get a little bit of background. It was great to get an insight of just her story. And then Yelena, that's a new character to me as well, up until the Black Widow movie that is coming at some point. One of the characters is Yelena. And I was like, who is this? And then
What
the
be?
art style. Yeah. Who are you?
Who dis?
And then the art style, this is probably my first experience of a trade like this that is like two different art styles. So yeah, the second part was, and now for something completely different, but I really, really enjoyed it.
What'd you think of Daredevil being in there?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? There's Daredevil in Black Widow's story? What the fuck?
Never mind. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, no, and I say this in like a kind of a joking way, but like I just love how like CW's done like comic book shows so far, like because CW's just best known for like young adult teen drama stuff, but like if you read comic books, like everyone dates everybody, and like Black Widow has like dated multiple members of the Avengers, and so it's like really just fun and interesting to see like how those interweaving relationships go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've noticed that with some of the like the limited comics we've read of Marvel. You know, I was like, all right, who's dating who in this comic? It's gonna be interesting to see. It's like the side
alternate
thing,
universe.
Yeah.
Right.
The young
it's
and the powerful.
Okay, Daredevil and Black Widow. Interesting. Okay,
I'll tell you right now, it's not Hulk and Black Widow, but okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it can be.
No,
But
it's
it
terribly
can
done.
be. Who knows? Joss?
You're terribly done.
Okay.
This isn't that episode, man.
Okay.
So many of you probably already know, if you're listeners of the show, that I'm a huge fan of Black Widow as the character, specifically as portrayed by Scarlett Johansson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm definitely very much looking forward to the Black Widow movie. And so for me, I was like, yeah, we got to read like a Black Widow trade or something coming up to the movie, even though it might be delayed. But the comic book definitely gives you that fix that you want from Black Widow. It's like kind of like what Corey mentioned and Josh a little bit. It's a great sort of run of the mill, kind of sells it short, I guess, but lack of a better word, it's kind of like what you expect it to be, and then it does kind of like catch you off guard a little bit, which is kind of cool. And it's gotten me very very much jonesed for the movie even more after having read this. So
Jonesed.
Caitlin?
I had a great time with it.
So this was the first time I've read a Black Widow comic, like period. And it was pretty much everything I expected it to be. Like, they were spies and people died. They did not die. Maybe they did. And there's, all this
Intrigue,
swapping around and double crossing, backstabbing. Who is that? I don't know. Governments being like, they're my spy. No, my spy. Like, they're politicking all over the place. So,
But I spy.
but I spied several spies with my eyes. And I don't know. There were a lot of things about it that I really enjoyed. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know you were going to do that. Interesting. And then there were other things where I'm like, what? But we'll get into that in a bit. That's my vague initial reaction.
Cool. Now, spoiler country. So that gives everyone an idea of what our ratings are going to be like.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to our next two
We're gonna go into
segments.
spoilers. If you haven't read it yet, pause it here. Go to nerdon.io/comicsology. Read it through, and then come on back. We'll wait.
So that brings us into our next two segments, which are going to be our brief synopsis, which is going to be more of like a teaser of what to expect out of this.
Yeah.
And then our production. And then later on, we go to our favorite parts, favorite characters, and then Kwame Qualms.
But we are going to get into spoilers.
Yes.
So
we're
if you haven't read it yet, pause this. nerdon.io/comicsology. Read it. Come back to us. We'll wait. I promise. We'll wait.
We'll wait right here.
And we're done waiting. Go ahead.
Cool.
Okay, yeah.
So but I'm just going to read the back of the book, because I think that's pretty much the teaser, right? So,
Perfect.
so
the synopsis.
yeah, right.
Yeah, accurate.
All right, ready? Ready? 2 stories and 2 leather-clad black widows for the price of 1. Hold on, this is hella small. Sorry. This is hella small.
I'll hold my
All right.
reaction.
From the steps of the Kremlin to the lowest levels of the Pentagon, Natasha Romanov, formerly a Soviet spy, now a superhero and an Avenger, must prove she still has what it takes when the young upstart Yelena Belova challenges her for the mantle of Black Widow. A story of blurred identity in a confused post-war arena. This fast-paced thriller embodies all of the tensions and action of a traditional espionage novel. Collecting Black Widow 1999 issues 1 through 3 and Black Widow 2001 issue 1 through 3.
Void where prohibited.
How was that, guys? How was my VO?
That was like 10
So
hours.
good.
As always,
10
Nerd On,
whole
we don't have more
hours.
time.
How was my
10 whole
VO
hours.
audition? I did
was great.
promo.
You did so
the
good,
promo.
Tom. You did it.
Oh,
Wow.
Yay.
So yeah, it focuses more around the 2 characters, and that's it. So our production.
All right, I'll do the production. I'm a production boy.
Yeah, you are.
Publication was by none other than Marvel Comics, as we already know, who did Daredevil, Blade, The Punisher, on and on and on. To the writers, for both stories, we have Devin K. Grayson from Marvel Rising, Teen Titans, and Nightwing. And then for Breakdown, joining Devin, we have Greg Rucka, who did Wonder Woman. How do you pronounce that again, Tom?
The Hikateka. Oh, no, sorry. The Hikatea.
I'll never get it right. Hikatea. Star Wars Before the Awakening, and it won the Eisner Award for Whiteout Melt. For artists, for the Itsy Bitsy Spider story, we have J.G. Jones, who's known for Why the Last Man, Final Crisis, and Wanted. And for Breakdown, we have Scott Hampton, who's known for Sandman Presents Lucifer, Batman, Night Cries, and Silver Heels. Publication date was issues that came out in July 1999, and the whole trade as one came out in January of 2001. The series order is Marvel Knights imprints Itsy Bitsy Spiders issue 1 through 3, and then Breakdown issues 1 through 3. Copies sold, unknown, or not listed.
Redacted on the spy file. I do want to make a little mention blurb for everyone who's
Please.
wondering what Marvel Knights is. If anyone remembers older Punisher films and I think Ghost Rider, before Marvel was purchased by Disney, they would say Marvel Knights. And I want everyone to go home and check out those little Easter eggs. I'm like, when I saw Marvel Knights, like, whoa, that's really cool. So I wrote down a little bit of the notey notes. So Marvel Knights was created in 1998 when Marvel filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, who were running Event Comics, their own comic book company, were asked by Marvel proper to produce low-profile characters like Daredevil, Punisher, the Inhumans, and Black Panther.
Whoa.
These stories were more prioritized short, contained stories over the long-running arcs that Marvel was really known for. And instead of the continuity and interweaving all the stuff, they were focused on high production quality instead. Fun fact, this is where Kevin Smith was able to write with Joe Quesada illustrating Daredevil, Guardian Devil, which was some stories featured into season 3 of Netflix Marvel's Daredevil.
Oh, fun.
Joe Quesada,
cool.
who also is known to being the Marvel CEO during 2000, I believe, 10 to 2011, and then stepped down to continue being CCO, who also is credited in the artwork for Mallrats in the opening sequence,
Oh,
and is in
Oh.
Chasing Amy and in Silent Bob. So it's really interesting to see how Marvel Knights Joe Quesada and all them kind of helped like Marvel limp along during like their like terrible times of like bankruptcy. So this is like one of those stories. It's like it's an essential to read in the comics lore. So yeah, Marvel Knights. It's an imprint. If you think of it like it's like DC Vertigo, where DC Vertigo is more about like, hey, we're going to be adult focused, more like HBO of comic books, and then Marvel Knights was like, hey, these are just going to be short one-offs. So they don't have anything to do with like the continuity a lot of times. But this is where Yelena Belanova was introduced, and
cool. I didn't know
J.G.
that.
Jones was one of the people that helped create the character. So with Devin K Grayson.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this kind of thing because sometimes some of the comic books that we have read in the past, they have like, I don't know, they have up to like 10 parts or something like that, whereas this was only 3 each half of it.
Little arc.
So it was it was cool to get short story.
It's kind of like this old like little short stories that you find in like a magazine, or like a little omnibus collection kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat in that way.
It's
like
cool.
scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
It's cool because it's still connected by the same writer. So like Devin K Grayson, shout out, because there is still a through line about
There's a progression,
what Yelena's character is going through and how Natasha pretty much like introduces
they're both
this
Black
character.
Widow.
Yeah. I'd say Yelena and Natasha. So like it's interesting to see what like how the story can progress and also change in tone. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into our favorite parts, right, baby?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got one.
Who wants to
Talk
go
about
first?
some Black
Me.
Widow.
Okay,
I do.
Corey. Just one. Go around the table.
Just one?
We'll go around. We'll go around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. The only one I wanted to talk to right off the bat is the art style of the second story of Breakdown. I have read a lot of older comics. When I started reading comics, they still kind of looked a little more pulpy. Like I read a lot of the Hellblazer comics. Like if you ever read, I think it's Bad Habit, Deadly Habit. Anyway, one of them. I can't remember the title right now.
Why the Last Man is
it's the art style exactly like that. And so I felt very at home reading that, and it could be a little bit of baggage, a little bit of bias, but I thought it was so beautiful that I wish that story hadn't ended because I just wanted to keep looking at the different panels. And when I went back and read it the second time, I spent a lot of time just examining the panels of that story, much more than the first one. And the first one's very polished, but there's something very it fit. Like if you ever watch Born Identity, and it's kind of like grainy and handheld, and it fits that genre really well, and that's how this felt.
I can see that.
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good way to look at it.
A lot of the community will kind of say like, if you read this trade, the first part is pretty much like 007, and the second part's like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Okay, yeah.
So
I get that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Kaylin's
that was my first favorite
She doesn't
part.
watch anything.
I don't know what any of that is.
I don't know the thing.
I don't know what anything is, but that's fine. I'll learn one day.
Yeah.
I'll go
When
next.
I'm
That's my first
older.
one. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I really in part 1 because this one is totally like I mean it's so hardcore babes like taking on and fighting and stuff like that. There's
Sexy cat suit, baby.
There's a page where Yelena has a machine gun and there's like blood spatters behind her. I just thought it was like a cool like spread of her killing some dudes, trying to escape and whatnot. But it was fun. Yeah.
This gives me a lot of like the like Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan, James Bond feel, where it's like action but also like sexy at the same time. And that's the one thing I really kind of like, even though like, it's interesting how you portray women in comic books, and having the lead still being sexy and powerful and also mysterious, and you don't know, like you're giving Black Widow as much credit as you would give any like male character, which is like is such an interesting thing because the male gaze and how we ingest media is so like male dominant. But then allowing women characters to have the same grace of like being able to be a badass and kill and be sexy and like get what they want, and like the love interest is a fucking side character. Like it's cool. And they're really like I think unapologetic about it, which I think is really fun because I like one of my favorite things is in the first part of Itsy Bitsy Spider is the last fucking frame where like there's just explosions around her and she's like standing, and I was like, this is such like that 90s action
but it's great.
Rodriguez thing. And to me it's like again, it's like I've been running the like James Bond theme in my head. I'm like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
kind of how it is. Whereas like Breakdown, I really liked because it was much more cerebral, much more about like who are we as individuals and identity and face.
Very different approaches to the two different stories.
Oh,
For many aspects.
Ollie,
I mean, to watch or to read and look at the art of.
yeah. In a weird way, it's a kind of like we've seen the Black Widow trailer, and it's like this is nothing like the Black Widow movie.
Right.
And
No.
so it's like very interesting to see like how, this is where it gives a lot of credence to like the comic book fanboys and fangirls who are like, it's the comic book, blah, blah. But it's always interesting to see what the liberties that like, how are they going to like intertwine with them? And like the fun thing with visual storytelling is like you get the chance to juggle the different things. So I want to be able to see some of these things in it, not done the same way, but in similar fashion.
Yeah, like the issues 1 through 3 is very much like you were saying, like your typical, action movie set in the 90s or whatever it is.
Like cat and mouse kind of thing.
Yeah, but I feel like everything's earned, like this, like issue 3's cover is kind of gnarly, right? They're kind of like entwined, but they've got the sexiest like struggle poses. But I feel like it works for what it is. And that's kind of, that's Black Widow, that's her like TM, is like that. But I feel in this case, in her character, especially in these books, it does a good job of like earning that and kind of balancing the scales, especially with Breakdown, to where it's like, it's okay. It's not just gratuitous, sexy action. There's actually like some substance here. So that it was really close.
And to your point, if you look at issue 2 of Itsy Bitsy Spider, like the way Black Widow looks like, she looks like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I was
kind of
surprised a
uncanny.
couple times. I was like, the likeness is kind of there weirdly.
Yeah. And I was like,
in a
man.
couple frames.
And I just don't know if it's like, did they just make it so she just looks like every woman that could possibly be here? But it's like, you can't put
It's casting. It's
right?
really good casting.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, as she drinks the water, Caitlin.
Oh, good timing.
Yeah.
Best timing in the world.
Got you like Corey.
My favorite is
timing.
definitely like when they're at the lake and she gives Yelena that like speech about like, listen, this is so much worse than you think it is. Do you really want this? Because like it sucks so much more than you realize. Like your whole life is basically not yours anymore. Like
And she talks
setting
about
up
ballet.
how which I'll get onto that later. But but yeah, no, that whole speech, there's just like that one panel of her having that really serious face. And that's by far my favorite moment where it's just like, no, okay. You think you want this? You don't.
You are naive.
Yeah, and that's kind of a cool thing. And just talking about just the story itself is that like, I really liked Breakdown a lot more than Itsy Bitsy Spider because to me, again, action is action and good action is good action, but like a good story, character point, and also talking about issues of like identity, but also like the harsh reality that like Yelena Belanova at the end, it's kind of like not by her own fault. And that's the thing, she doesn't have like, I think the world is like this. And so it's fucking stupid. It's more like people have been able to infer her reactions and her emotions. And says like she still believes that she's a hero. And Natasha, the true Black Widow, the way that the story is kind of framed, understands that she's not a superhero, she's a spy. And when you do spy work, it gets really nasty. And I just kind of like that storytelling because like a lot of people I think put comic books in like in a kiddie genre where like you can actually tell these deeper stories of like what the stories are trying to subvert. And even though it is a superhero genre, the character is, but like it still tries to be like something more than that and just be more character focused, I think.
Yeah.
Any other favorite
100%.
parts?
I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to quickly shout out the art style again. I mean, that's kind of like if I had to pick a second favorite part, it would be the art style in Breakdown.
Scott Hampton's. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's
The
something.
pastels is really
It's
interesting.
so right for this story because like I feel like at least he is getting a lot more like emotiveness and expression out of the characters, and I think it really goes a long way
Yeah, I
to
agree.
sell, especially like sometimes their nose will be more red or their cheeks will be more red. And it's like, it does add to sort of like the weight of what's going on. So I really did appreciate the sort of like the work, basically the art. It was great.
And I'll have to say also to the writing too, because I don't know what it was. Maybe it's hindsight, but Devin Grayson definitely like just honed in on a little bit more of like action versus like dialogue. Because in Itsy Bitsy Spider, there's just like paragraphs and bubbles and bubbles and bubbles. And what I really liked is also thought bubbles, because it reminds me of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Because that's what they really did well that I loved with Peter Parker, is that like he has so much thought bubbles and he goes on and talks to himself and has full conversations.
Reminds me of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about Spider-Man. So it's really cool that it did that, where it's like it felt very like Marvel brand. But like in the breakdown, it's very just much like you see by action, and there's not a lot of dialogue. There's like panels of just no dialogue. And it just goes straight into like what's happening, what are they doing, and then you really trust the reader to be intelligent, to know like what Yelena is going through.
Mm-hmm.
So I really just kind of enjoyed like the two different writing styles that Grayson did in both.
Yeah. My other favorite part is legitimately the face off aspect of it. I'm so glad that they did something like that, because it's a wonderful blend of like Black Widow as a superhero in comparison to like Thor or someone with like mutant powers or something like that, as such a grounded hero, but to have something in there that's a little more fantastical, even though it's like based in science. And the serum as well, like both of those being included in this slightly more grounded character added a really wonderful element to the story that could have otherwise been really low stakes, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would agree with that.
But specifically the face-off bit really caught my attention. Like as soon as I saw that happening, I was like, but why? And it just the payoff was wonderful. So that was definitely one of my favorite parts. When you find out why and you're like, this is wonderful.
Yeah, the payoff at the end when you're like, you got taught a lesson in the hardest possible way. Another
it's a little intense.
Little intense. Like you did that to prove a point. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of that I really enjoyed was in the first part in Itsy Bitsy Spider is the way that they did the book credits. It was more like a case report.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was
filed
like,
by.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was just a really cool aspect of it that I had never seen in a comic book. So
I really like the one panel in Breakdown where Yelena, donning a different face, says, "If I pull the trigger, will I kill me too?" And that's just like a cool thing. Again, like there's just a really cool idea, and like there's just so much hard shadow and so much contrast to it because it's on a white background, but half her face is covered in shadow. Like the artwork is really good on both ends too. I really liked J.G. Jones' artwork in Itsy Bitsy Spider because it is at like high stylized comic book. Like to me, that's how what a comic book should look like in my mind. Should have that saturation, that poppy. It looks like a cartoon moving. But then and I think Corey has played it, but if anyone at home listening or watching, Marvel playing the fighting game Marvel versus the Imperfects or Marvel Imperfects.
Yeah.
It's a fighting game. This if you like this Scott Hampton art style, that game is for you because they do these little mini comic books and they're all in that art style. And also the entire game is done in that way too. So
nice.
It's just
it's fun.
Really cool.
It's worth a play.
For sure. It's fun. Any other favorite parts?
I mean, I could keep going and going. I really had a lot of fun within this comic. I mean,
read us the red carpet.
Josh touched on this before, but since we were in spoiler-free territory, I'd like to dive in a little deeper. Yeah. The relationship with Daredevil and Black Widow here was really well done because it wasn't like, oh, by the way, these two are in a relationship. It wasn't exposition-y. They kind of just let the world live and you pick up on cues just by how they talk that you're like, oh, they're in a relationship somehow.
Yeah.
And so I really liked the way that was done instead of it being like really ham-fisted, like, by the way, we're in love. And so like,
let's make out in the corner behind the airplane hangar.
It made me really happy to have someone give exposition without me really picking up on it immediately. And I like the way that was
also nice for Breakdown's narrative. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice to not know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the full extent of their relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helped the narrative. I think.
I think to Corey's point as well, like it's cool because you see again reading the 2 issues like this is very or the 2 stories like this is really fun because Daredevil in the first part is very like, hey, what's up, sweet cheeks, and yeah, I'll go over there. Then all of a sudden when shit hits the fan, he's like, what's going on? He's like going in, he's like trying to protect, and he's like, whatever you'll do, I'll help you.
And his
then,
suit
like-
looked dope in Breakdown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then in Breakdown, he's very much it's like, hey, I love you and I care for you, and you're you're you, but I also don't know if I can trust you right now, and I'm going to do whatever I can to protect this other person.
Yeah.
So there is that little lovers quarrel. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed how that was done.
I also like that he could like when he talked about Yelena's like heart rate and she's having nightmares and like all of that stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that he can do that.
Yeah.
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 I like that.
I like
aspect.
the
Very nice
first line.
touch.
You look nice, I assume. Whatever he says.
I was so confused at the beginning because I thought that was Alexi that walked in. And it wasn't
Oh.
until he started talking that I was like,
Mm.
oh, this,
Oh, it's Matt Murdock.
that's not that. Okay.
which
That makes
again,
sense.
All his blind jokes were on point.
Oh yeah, they were great.
that's one thing I've always loved about comic books is that like they're just its own identity. And as Corey will always nag me for, comparison is a thief of joy. The comic book characters are always, I just feel so much more rich compared to like any other adaptation because they just somehow imply more.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more, like they feel lived in. They don't feel like a new shoe.
Well, that's the
Feels
It's
thing.
the show
You
don't
know,
tell
that's-
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
Um,
nobody talks like that, like we see those other other stories of, where it's heavily expositional. It's like nobody says, "Hi, girlfriend, how are you?"
There
It's
are
like,
there are 2 instances.
you don't have to explain the situation to every conversation. You know what I mean? So it's more believable for us to
Sometimes
kind
you
of
don't
figure
need
it
a
out on our own.
sentence to explain.
There are, however, 2
Yeah.
instances in this where 2 of the army grunts are being really exposition-y.
Oh yeah.
And that stood out to me in contrast only because the writers handled all the other exposition so well.
Yeah.
Man,
What do you
it
mean
was-
there's a woman in the base?
Yeah, like stuff like that. Where they're like, oh, well, Black Widow, I thought she was a redhead, but why is she
They
blonde?
say her name is
like,
Black Widow.
God damn it.
Hey, I heard the serum
Some
does some
kinda
crazy
spy.
things.
Yeah, so that
Oh.
kind of stuff wasn't as great. But the I just had a motorcycle drive to my room.
Right.
The exposition of the main characters were wonderful.
I wasn't prepared for that to be the reality of what that sound was.
Yeah, I run drag races in my office, so
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a
I
waste
mean,
of
I've
way to
seen
make
his
money during
office. I can
quarantine.
confirm.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
Uh,
part that I liked is I do like how Daredevil treated Yelena in Breakdown.
Mhm.
Knowing what was happening and just kind of almost taking care of her too, of like, listen, the situation is kind of fucked up. So I'm just going to take care with you a little bit. And he's not like trying to be, I don't know. He's just taking care with her. And I
Yeah.
liked that and how he was treating her during the
Yeah.
situation. Cause most of the time she's like, what the fuck? What is happening?
And then Nick Fury's just fucking Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's white, but
He's
Oh,
just like,
yeah,
at any
that was a
cost.
That works 'cause,
little bit
like-
jarring.
What?
But
yeah.
that like I forgot Nick Fury was white at a point.
And they
Yeah,
have
originally, and then
they
they
have
changed
in
it.
comic book explanation of why he turned to black now. So
They changed it, and they based it off Sam Jackson before he ever got the role. Which
that
is,
was in the
awesome.
Ultimates universe, and
Wow.
they explained it that how like he's actually been like a kid that he raised, and then the real Nick Fury is like on the moon,
cool.
and so it's a lot.
I like
but
that.
to Josh's point, I do like a little Catholic boy coming to save the day and being like everyone's trying. Like the sad thing about Yelena, she is naive and she is a hot-headed, and everyone's trying to give her that tough love, that lesson. But Daredevil's that one's like, hey, I'm the soft hand that will like try to pick you up.
Mhm.
So I thought that was like a nice contrast to Josh's point.
Yeah,
So favorite characters?
I mean,
We can pick the 2 widows and then any side
Natasha,
characters.
Yelena, and then one side character.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
You have to pick the character and then what face you want that character.
We're going to RPG.
Oh.
I like Natasha with
Yelena's
her own face.
Subversion.
For me, I'll start. For me, it's Natasha, 100%. The way that she kept, especially in Itsy Bitsy Spider, the way she kept one step ahead of Yelena confidently the entire time was so impressive to me. and I thought it was written so well because they show Yelena to be very competent and very highly skilled. But that line where she's like, I'm better than you in almost every way, and then Natasha says, yeah, on paper.
Yeah.
And I loved that because then they show it to you what that means, why experience is so important.
But I mean, Yelena does come back, and it's like she's standing on that truck with that sniper with that machine gun.
Oh yeah, but then Natasha one ups her again, and then again and again.
Well, she's able to
she's like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, but I was just like, that's kind of the thing. It's like she is a pretty good leech.
That's what I
like
mean.
a
Yeah,
tail, yeah.
She's good, but like Natasha's just that much better.
Better.
So that would be my main, and then side. It's hard not to say Daredevil.
Yeah.
Because he is that character. Every time he came in for his bit parts, I was very excited about it. And I loved the way his suit looked in Breakdown. And then for side character, it's hard not to say Daredevil, just because every time he shows up, it's really, I was excited. I was like excited to see him. I think, all his quips were on point. The way he was introduced was great. And his suit just looked so dope in Breakdown that I have a hard time picking anyone else. I wanted more of him in the suit.
Yeah.
It looked so cool. I would read an entire Daredevil comic if it was drawn like that.
Find some Scott Hampton stuff then.
There you go.
Sandman, baby.
So, that's it.
I'll go next.
Josh, yeah.
I'm going to echo. I really loved Natasha. I just love her badass capability in this. She's just a badass in all of this, and I like that. Yelena comes in as such a hothead, and like Corey already said, on paper, bringing up that scene. Yeah, on paper, Yelena is better in every way, but Black Widow has experience. She has knowledge that she has gained from doing what she's doing and the way that people treat her, and so she knows how people.
Pedigree don't mean shit.
Yeah. And then for side, it's Daredevil. I just really enjoyed him in both parts.
Matt and Daredevil, both great.
Kaylin?
For me, it's Natasha and Yelena. Just because I like the two of them together. I wish there was like a buddy cop style movie where they keep trying to one up each other to like solve something.
I don't know why Marvel doesn't just make one.
That would be great. I would watch it. Please make it. Marvel, I know you're listening. Please do that.
It's almost like that's the movie that's coming out.
It's almost like that's probably not what the movie's going to come out.
Yeah, it's not going to be the like fun, happy buddy cop movie that I want.
We don't know.
I will still watch it.
It's going to be Incredibles.
Then they just paid I was going to say, then they paid a lot of check money.
Russian Incredibles.
Yeah,
they paid a lot of check money to Rachel Weisz for no reason. Ollie?
Always taking a drink every time.
I'm so good at this. I am a G. I'm always going to choose who's Corey.
Every time.
Mine is Natasha and Yelena.
Oh, strong females?
I didn't know we could pick both.
The interlocking
I thought it was
cover.
one of them and a side.
Oh, okay. So she's like main. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I broke the rules because I can.
No, you're not. Just because you're the only female doesn't mean you got to break the rules.
Who's your side
Just
character?
today.
The serum doctor. What? Just because I was like, you're just gonna do it just because she says to do it.
I would.
Fair
What
enough.
do you mean? She
I definitely would.
literally saved him and said, if you're going to be here, you either shoot yourself or you make me a serum.
I know.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, he's kind of
He could have done other things with that gun, but he didn't. He wouldn't dare.
like shoot her. Yeah. I mean,
he would have died
She
so
does have
fast.
superhuman. Like contrary to the MCU, she actually has super abilities. So no, that doesn't work. My two, I think, are actually going to be Natasha and Stoyenko, the main antagonist.
The Russian guy.
Breakdown.
Yeah, there's a lot of Russian guys in here, but I like.
But the big head honcho bald one.
You call him the
From
main
Breakdown.
antagonist. For
Yeah,
sure.
that
He's
one.
in both.
Is that still him in the other one?
Yeah,
Your style's just so different.
he's the other like general guy.
I liked his art
guy.
in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a lot bigger in the
He looked
last
like a
one.
toad in the first one.
I liked him in both, mainly because I liked that he provided like a little bit of the ghost of the story of like, this is like who Natasha really knew before the story began, and like he provides that like if you go down this path, like this is like the worst case scenario.
Looking at
and
the
I
art
think
real quick.
that's I think a really cool piece that I think is overlooked because as much as it is a turmoil between the two characters of like Natasha trying to like cope with the fact that she is aging and she is getting older and she's feeling more mortal, and Yelena trying to grow as her own character, like he provides this like good tension that like because they both come from Mother Russia, like it does like there is a little bit of that home like loyalty that they're kind of foregoing in order to progress as characters. So I liked him.
Das Vidania.
Okay. Shout out to all the Russian listeners and watchers. We're not trying to make fun of it.
It's in the book. I read it in the book. It's in the book.
It's in the book. So that leads us to our final segment before our rating, which is our qualms.
Qualms.
Who would like to go first? Corey.
Okay. I mean, the
Why
first
ask
one I
the
already
question?
mentioned. I have, given it to 2. We have the soldiers who are a little too like, I'm a character in a story who needs to convey information and not
Like
a real person. Those stood out to me like such a sore thumb because everything else is written so well. So those moments bothered me.
It wasn't even needed exposition.
No, it was like such a okay, that's not good kind of thing. Like that's how it felt. It was like
I
such a-
knew
no
it
more
was going to
dead
come up
cops.
at some point.
Or like I'm not wearing hockey pads. So like
Nice.
except for that one. That one's good.
Wow.
But like it just felt like such like I could have done without it, I guess. I think it was an attempt at world building that didn't work.
the Rostopanian. Yeah. That's Russian she's speaking, right?
Yeah. There's voices coming from over here. So that stuff kind of took me out of the story. And then I know this is like part of the intrigue, but I'm just not a huge fan of how they're drawn in the first one.
The art style.
Not the art style itself, just how that artist drew both Natasha and
Oh, the
Yelena.
sexy bombastic.
yeah, like it's just
yeah.
too much. It
Yeah.
it almost like reminded me too much of like Rob Liefeld in a bad way.
It's a leather
and-
suit. Why are nipples being shown?
Yeah, and like yeah, I don't know, just how they moved sometimes in these like way too ultra sexy ways while they're fighting. It's just like
That
I was
was
like, I think it's part of the reason I liked Breakdown even more was just that it felt a little more real. Like how they fought was very like
Well, even then, they're not hourglass shapes. They're actually a little bit more boxy, which is like
yeah, and they're like wearing big coats most of the time.
like their
and
rib
so
cages look normal.
I know that's such a small thing to
Thank
or
God.
easy target to complain about,
But
but it
I'm-
was just.
I echo.
I mean,
you,
I don't
Corey.
mind it to a degree. Like I get it because they're supposed to be like like you said the opposite of James Bond, right? Where he was this dashing, good-looking thing, so it should be the opposite. But it just took it a step too far in this one for me.
It's just if you can nitpick, that's the thing you can nitpick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sounds like Josh is going to copy and paste.
No, I was just gonna say that there were a few scenes that I was like, she had literally just killed somebody, and now she's in this like really sexy pose, and I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. No, it was like a bent over like kind of thing.
It's like the
Anyway,
end of, I think it's like the end of issue 2 or 3. She's just like in this pose.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, qualms mainly have to do with the first part, Itsy Bitsy Spider. Maybe this is something that I completely didn't see in other comic books that I have read, but I felt like it's in the lettering and the dialogue. I felt like there was an overuse of bolding in sentences. Like it was
How do
like,
I highlight
I know
words?
that the emphasis needs to be on the bold, but I would read through some of the sentences and I would be like, Jesus, there's so much bolding. Like,
My patience is already at an ebb low.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, guys,
I get
chill. And then like there were some, I would say they were
I
kind
see
of
it.
the,
Yeah, I'm looking too.
they were notifications. I'm just going to call them that, labels for where they were, like locations or.
Oh, Washington, Rostopon.
Yeah, they were square bubbles, but sometimes they would use square or rectangle for important dialogue, like there's at one point she goes, when are you going to learn that it's not just Americans and Russians? Those are people that he's going for after. It's like it was a square box, and it was. But sometimes they use the usual kind of oval.
Somebody yelling Rasputin.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a little thing.
Yeah,
It's just a
I get
nitpicky
that.
thing, but it's something that I was like, I'm okay.
To me, the devil's in the details on that one for me. I understand. I'm looking at it now, but mostly when it's highlighted dialogue, it's a box with a colored box.
Mm-hmm.
Is how they differentiate it.
Well,
and I think they use that a lot in X-Men. So maybe I'm just again baggage that I'm used to it.
I figured those as like, so if each panel is a frame of a movie that you're watching, the squares are voiceover.
Mhm.
That's how I
There's
picture it. But
nothing,
then
yeah.
that's on me. But I get like where it's like it's interesting to mesh between the two of like helping a reader like track through a page.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and at this point I've read a good amount of comic books. I think maybe it was just something that I didn't notice before, that it's always been done that way, but maybe I just hyper focused on this one. My only other qualm, and it's slightly
third or
silly, but
second?
in Itsy Bitsy Spider, there is a scene where Natasha she had just escaped with a bioserum. She's in the
Mhm.
army truck, and she's just kind of chilling there, and there's night sky behind her. And
Oh
I
yeah, I
don't-
saw that.
It's
It
a
says-
tiny
it
thing. It's
says
like
night
finding a
sky.
typo
Yeah.
in something. You can see handwritten night sky. Like, I'm wondering if maybe in
It's
the publication.
definitely like this is what you should draw.
There's an
here.
earlier one
Yeah.
that says
Oh,
night sky with stars. I think the
no, I
first one
gotta
says
find
night
it
sky with stars, with some stars, and then like the next one says night sky.
Yeah. So it's like a little tiny, like, huh.
It's
I
like they
think
didn't
it's-
erase the pencil.
Yeah.
Oh,
Page
that's really cool.
25.
I love that actually.
Yeah, it's cool.
What,
I like-
which
I dig it.
one?
Page
Uh,
25.
Yeah, it's
like a
in the
little-
desert. You see like it's
little
one of the
behind the
frames in the
scenes.
bottom left, but also you see
You're right.
you can also see. I think it's also kind of part of the digitization.
That's what I was
Um,
gonna say. This
'Cause
is
if
a
you look-
stretching qualm. It's just something that
Yeah.
I noticed.
If-
I was like,
If you look on the right of the page, you see like the little square where I think the grid lines were. So it's like this is where your panel should be. That's really cool. That's an interesting find.
I dig it. Yeah.
Yeah, no
Anyway.
kidding. I did not notice that.
Oh shit, Kaylin didn't
Oh
notice
my
them all.
god, I didn't
No
notice a
more.
tiny thing.
All right, go Kaylin, go.
Oh yeah, it's totally just the digitization. Yeah, you can see the outlines of the panels.
So something that I'm on the same boat as Corey. The posing was a little silly to me, but also the stuff about ballet, since I know that's such a big part of her character, like showing me the shoes and saying was like, I was a dancer. Like that's kind of all you really get.
A tiny dancer.
A tiny dancer. That's kind of all you get for the ballet stuff. I really wish there was a little bit more of that incorporated, since I know that like the dancing side is supposed to integrate into like how they fight and everything. But when the fighting was happening, there was like no trace of that present whatsoever. And like the way they were landing on their feet and their boots were like this shape, I'm like, you would break your toes 100%. Being on
if
point.
They had that square ass shoe like a ballet do.
Well, no, like you, like being on point, like you can only, like you got to train for fucking ever to be on point, but that's not something you like run with
That's
or
what's that-
land
that's what the
from
red
really
room
high
is.
on. I
Yeah.
get
It's to
it, but
teach you.
it,
It's to teach
I
you
mean-
balance and grace.
It's not an
Right.
origin story,
Yeah,
so I'm
Right.
assuming that's why they didn't include a whole bunch of it.
but I get you.
but they were doing, I
but the
this is
fighting
more my
thing-
qualm that like they did such a good job with having those things. Like to me, it looked like, yes, you're bringing up that she did ballet. Yes, you're bringing up that she was a dancer. But then that was kind of the very surface level acknowledgement of it. It's kind of like the same as your qualm with the guards that would like bring up very
Mhm.
surface level things,
Yeah.
but not really dive deeper into it. So I'm more saying that it's a qualm because it wasn't like there wasn't
that's not my
much
qualm.
ballet lore there, if that makes
It was
sense.
like a little tease for somebody who hasn't maybe like understood the
Experience.
character
Yeah,
before it.
it's yeah. I think it's
Right.
like one of those lines you toe. It's kind of like, you know, every time we have a Peter Parker story, it's like, do we talk about Uncle Ben or do we talk about the pearls and Martha? But you know, so yeah, I get what you mean. Where it's like having a little bit more integration could be nice, but also it's like,
But also,
where you
it's
draw
like
the line.
football players take ballet, but they're not doing pirouettes on the field.
Right.
It's more about
Right.
It's
agility than
but
anything.
I want to ride the coattails on that one a little bit because my qualm is with that, but it's with how open she became about talking about it to Yelena. Like, I feel like just because she also came from the Red Room, I don't know if she would be that open to telling her all her personal like secrets, or not secrets, but just like her.
Well, I mean,
she's like
wearing her
explaining her
face.
origin story. It's like if Batman was like, my parents were killed, once upon a midsummer's night. It's like, well,
Then
maybe
you should read Batman
maybe you're a little
All-Star.
guarded.
To me, it was situational because she's literally sees herself in Yelena. She has her face on at that point.
I think it would have softened it a little bit more. And my overall issue with it is that I really feel like these could have both got a lot more out of the stories and out of the characters if they were like 6-issue runs for each of these little arcs instead of
Sure.
3-issue runs. Because I felt a little like kind of like maybe Kaylin, this is maybe what you were getting at, but I felt a little robbed of some juicy lore that could have really amped up. I feel.
That's Marvel Knights, baby.
And I actually don't think that more would have fixed the ballet thing. For me, it was just a movement thing. Like the way that they were drawn and the
Illustration.
poses, the illustration, because like if they're going to talk about ballet, like I want to see some aspect of ballet included in the style.
Whenever, and this is something that we see a lot in the MCU with her character in that, but and I think it's done a lot better in the MCU in most regards. I mean, obviously I haven't read enough of the comics to know, but the sort of ultra sexy poses to me, I think, obviously there's the, sex sells part of it, but I think they're also trying to convey like her grace in that like she can fight all these guys, but then like have this like sexy pose at the end, and it was like effortless for her.
Well, isn't
like,
the point of,
it goes a little too far, but I think that's what they're going for.
The idea behind ballet, the motif that's used is discipline and agility, not necessarily the fact that they're gonna fight like they're doing ballet.
Right. It's just
Right.
she has that sort of motion.
And I'm not saying I want to see her like pirouette or whatever. I'm just saying like trade out some of the sexy for some of the like grace. Because like
it's just
what
hard
you're
to sell
saying,
the grace with the leather suit.
I get it.
That's the thing.
But why?
But it's also two different stories. That's Itsy Bitsy Spider versus Breakdown.
Right.
What do you mean?
Breakdown is where they mention the ballet.
Oh,
Itsy Bitsy Spider has nothing to do with ballet.
Right. But it's like a whole arc because they show the ballet shoes in the very first like couple like pages.
Yeah.
So
and the red
that's
is a collection piece.
That's more my qualm, is less sexy, more graceful. I think there's a balance that could be struck a little bit better there.
And I'm just, Ollie, you can have your qualm, but I'm going to refute that because there's only two things I can remember of Black Widow being sexy pose after she fights, and that's in Iron Man 2.
Well,
and then maybe the next thing is
my threshold for sexy
Avengers.
poses is lower.
And so like to me, everything she does is more MMA based. And so like that's none of it sexy. That's just very technical.
Well, the dismount is like, there's always a cool dismount.
I only remember one from Iron Man 2, and that's it.
Superhero landing.
And then the explosion in Avengers 1. That's it. And she doesn't have superhero landings.
Well,
I'm just saying in that hallway she does.
Yeah.
She does
and
have
those fewer,
superhero
like in
landing.
Iron Man 2, I feel like she gets away with it more. I don't know.
I feel like she does it once, and that's it. It's like in that hallway scene, she climbs on somebody, and then she flips him down, and she lands on all fours.
Maybe it's a quantity thing, because I did notice the pose thing for sure in this comic, and it was like, I felt like at a certain point, I felt like it was like every other page.
At the end of, especially at the end of the third issue of Itsy Bitsy Spider, when she fights the general who's
and
decaying.
like she ends in that.
Yeah, it's awful.
It looks like a poster for actually it reminded me of the poster for
You mean my fucking favorite
for
part,
Winter
Corey?
Soldier.
That frame is your favorite part?
Wait, right? No, not that one. Not that one.
This frame is your favorite part?
Well, I can't see that, but
here you go, Tom.
She's
It's
tired.
a butt.
She's tired. She's catching her breath.
Uh-huh.
But I like booty. I'm talking about the last where it says Das Vidania, where it's like just her standing.
That's the point where I agree with you, Corey. that part I agree with you for sure.
My qualms, the only thing is going to be that like Breakdown is really more of a story character thing than like the action espionage of Itsy Bitsy Spider. And that's pretty much it, because I think where like action like is the forefront of Itsy Bitsy Spider, like Breakdown's pretty much more about like salvation of a character. And I think the comparison of the two with the volume together, like it creates like this clash. But I mean, like the thing about with Grayson, like writing the whole thing, like it is supposed to be this like through line of like there's how many of these instances between the two characters of what they've been through. But like Breakdown just hits a lot heavier than what Itsy Bitsy Spider does. It's much more like a physical versus metaphysical kind of conflict. But
yeah, it's interesting, kind of like seeing the the point in the story where it switches. It's interesting because it's like the first thing is she wakes up, and it's like, oh, is this kind of like a dream world? So kind of, I think it's kind of fun.
Well, like I think that's
Kinda
really cool
works
because it plays on like the whole like Corey was saying, like the born identity thing, where it's like you wake up and you're like a cell that's activated, and like that's what she kind of goes through, and so like it's interesting. Like it feels very cinematic in that sense, where it's like you're just in the middle of it. And like, even if you started with that one, it's like, cool, you can just start you don't even have to read Itsy Bitsy Spider. You can just start with Breakdown and be like, they're going to tell me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
So any other qualms?
Nope.
No.
So move on to our rating. Who's the lineup, Corey?
It's Ollie and Josh first.
Ollie.
First.
Anyway.
This is a rare treat. My score for this is I would say 4.3 based on my reading a couple times through and then our conversation. It's a really great solid book for those who want to learn a bit more about like her character, have some knowledge from the MCU, and just kind of maybe want to have a bit more under their belt, let's say before going to see the Black Widow movie. I think it's a great kind of really great way to introduce yourself to some of the characters, and also I think a little bit of the tone. I mean, it's still kind of within the same sort of cheekiness and sort of fun that the MCU is, especially the first 3 issues. So I think you can't go wrong. It's a quick read. It's fun. Get it on Comixology. Easy peasy.
Nice.
Nerd.io/Comixology.
I am going to give it a 4.
Solid 4.
Solid 4.
Solid 4. Love it.
Solid 4.
Kaylin?
Also a 4. I don't know. There were things about that I enjoyed, but it felt like it was a good quick read. It gave me an idea of her character. I really liked a lot of the character interactions, like especially the one that was my favorite part. But there was something about it was just like not hitting in a way where I'm like, yes, this was my favorite thing ever. So it was good, but not like I love it kind of thing.
Then it's
I
Corey?
give it's tough because the first story for me is a 3, and the second story is like a 4.2. So like a 3.7, I guess.
3.7. That's a good average.
Would average it out.
Ooh-wee, baby.
Yeah.
Mine's a 4. I
Wow.
think, like, as I think the second part, like to Corey's point, like really outweighs a lot of the mishaps of the first part. And to me, but also like knowing that this is how the trade is set together, like it makes it kind of unbalanced. But like I think like again, it's Marvel Knights story, so like it's not this long arching thing. It is meant to be what this is. So like I'm going to give it credit where credit's due, and yeah, it's a 4.
Wow.
So freaking whoever voted for Corey was fucking right.
Caitlin
Yes.
did, I think. Yeah.
Josh.
Wow. Josh and Kaylin. I thought Josh was going to be, I was like, maybe it'll be a 3-way, but no, Corey.
Grump
got it.
I picked
guessers.
Tom.
Grump guesser.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were right. Oh, surprising.
It's
Ollie
close.
has the highest score.
I'm the highest score. Well, I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
Surprising, not
Who
surprising.
knew?
I did. That's why I didn't pick him.
Awesome. Well, everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us for this quarantine episode. We're figuring it all out. This is fun. It's great to continue our conversation together as a group.
Can we reveal a little bit? Man, there's so many mishaps with this fucking recording that like
I feel bad for
like
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was a lot of things. Corey's power went out.
Tom. And Josh.
yeah, if you made it to this part, like, you know, it took a lot of editing to get to this part of the show.
The runtime
Audio
of this
and
episode
video.
is a lie.
Yeah, my goodness.
And then our first time that we did this, we had maybe a couple of hiccups that were so
It
tiny that it
wasn't-
was like doop-a-doop-a-doo. Not
yeah,
today.
no problem.
But
Not today.
everybody at home, if you have read this collection, Itsy Bitsy Spider, let us know what you thought. who you thought would be the grump, all that good stuff. Reach out
What's
to
your
us.
favorite sexy pose?
Yeah. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us in any of our social media. Stop by, rate and review us wherever you listen, whether it's Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all the things. YouTube, we are on there as well. All of our episodes go to video, which is
Neat.
fun. It's fun, especially
So
when
fun.
especially when we're doing something like this.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it. You know the drill. As always.
Nerd
Nerd
on.
Nerd on.